Hello all. Grimshaw is an internationally renowned architecture firm founded by Sir Nicholas Grimshaw. They have completed a wide range of projects worldwide, including transportation hubs, cultural institutions, and commercial buildings. Waterloo International Terminal in London is one of them, known for its sweeping glass and steel design. Let's hear more from Mark Middleton, Group Managing Partner at Grimshaw. Hello, Mark. Please share something about the project that's shortlisted here.
Well, we're talking about the Waterloo Master Plan and the South Bank in London, which is a very mature area. Lots of great cultural institutions and things grown up over time. So there's a bit of a patchwork. There's also a station in the middle, which kind of severs the city. So really what we've got to try and do is tie all those things together. So I think the thing for smart cities is there's not one thing you do. There's lots of little things you do. And I think that actually technology enables lots of pressure groups and people interests, from urban farming to improving urban realm and the streets and other sustainability initiatives, helps them bring them together. So what we've got to do is provide a framework for all of those people to work together, work in the same direction. Because I think that you can't just set a policy and then expect the smart to become a smart city. I think that what you've got to do is you've got to use the people. The biggest resource actually are people like you and I, people who are invested in the city and want it to be better, and you enable them to help it become better.
And how did you end up with this project, this Waterloo Station project?
Well, it was a tender. We're working as part of a larger team, so there's a lot of team of engineers and economists and other people. But it was a tender for Lambeth Council and Network Rail, who own and operate the station. And yeah, it's a really sort of broad remit. I think the advantage of the project was that it wasn't just the red line of the station. It was beyond that. It was about connecting through and around and up and in the station. So I think that was the real benefit of it. But this is actually, we're trying to create a framework so other developments can happen. So there'll be residential, there'll be adaptive reuse for local businesses, shopping. But those projects won't be down to us. They'll be down to lots of different architects. There could be architectural competitions, but we'll set the framework, and the framework is to be technology enabled, smart cities. It's about people, place and prosperity. So those were the three things that we're trying to deliver.
And Waterloo is historically very important location. And
yeah, it's the busiest station in London. There's 100 million passengers movements a year. It's not the oldest station. It was kind of rebuilt around 1900, 1920. But it's raised on viaducts. It's up high. It's a very kind of castle in there. It's a very kind of got walls and it's not very permeable. So that's one of the first things we've got to deal with, is make it more permeable, easy to use, more activated, more used, and a greater resource for the local community.
Yeah, and it also I believe, if I'm not wrong, it have a colonial feature.
There's an arch, ceremonial arch, which it celebrates the Battle of Waterloo. So it's defeating Napoleon. Yeah, so it's called Victory Arch.
At Victory Arch.
Yeah.
So how did you incorporate these cultural similarities while you were expanding this project into a modern stage?
Well, I think there's a broader thing around dealing with history, which is really that with now and sustainability and adaptive reuse, you've really got to look at the assets you have and see how you can reuse those. So all of these are of a benefit. I don't think we've got to negotiate with, colonial past or whatever. I think those things are, you look at those are, they're nice things, they're symbolic. Try and use them, try and use what we have. I think some of the most beautiful places are the viaducts underneath the station, which are quite utilitarian. They're quite, engineering, quite basic, but actually they could have fantastic shops, theatres, performance spaces. They could be all sorts of things. And I think that some of those forgotten spaces can be brought back into use. And that's what's going to really get the life of the city, because the city relies on people, and you need things to bring people into the cities and for them to use it and inhabit it and own it and kind of curate it themselves. And that's what we're trying to do.
Talking about people, like what you said, it's a busier station. And
Yeah.
how did you manage, in development along with not disturbing the social life or the behavioral aspect of this?
Well, at the minute it's just a master plan, so we haven't started, but we've done quite a few stations in London. And they normally take, it can take 4 or 5 years. So you've just got to work with that. So the phasing and how it's done has got to be part of the planning. You've generally got to try and design things to be built really quickly, because for every day it takes, it can cost money, and it can disruption and unhappiness and general sort of annoyance at them being constructed. But the redevelopment itself does include some office development above the station and potentially some residential as well. So it's bringing more people there. So I think you've got to have a little bit of pain for a lot of gain.
And any kind of retrofitting was done along with this project?
Any what, sorry?
Any kind of retrofitting was done along with this project? Looking at from, because it's an ancient city.
Yes.
And, while you modernize it, you have limitations to replace things which are already there.
No, well, in the UK, there's a lot of things around heritage. So there's a lot of things that are listed, that things you can't touch, or if you want to touch them, it takes quite a long time for you to get the permission to touch them. But I always think we just try and use it. The whole area's got a patchwork from, 18th century workers' housing, which are very popular, but they're quite small scale, to these big kind of monuments, Jubilee Gardens. You've then got the you've got the London Eye, the big wheel, and you've got some of the cultural institutions. So there's a real difference. But all of that's to be celebrated. It's all benefit. It's all great for the master plan. You don't want to change any of that. You just want to add little moments to really improve things. It's almost like marginal gains. It's already good, and how can we make it better?
And what kind of technology tools assisted in this process?
Well, there's a lot of sifting of data. So there's a lot of data, inherent data, passenger movements, people movements, and there's air quality, stuff like that, and then you take that data and put it into models. So there's a lot of modelling, not only for pedestrian movements, but future movements. There's daylight analysis, there's all of those things, and there's an example of air quality. If we actually close some of the roads, pedestrianize some of the streets, again the pollution's going to come down. So a lot of it's data driven modelling. So that's really what we've been using.
And you must have done similar kind of projects in this line of sustainable cities.
Yeah. There's lots of. Well, it's usually been transit orientated developments we've done, but I think that we're doing quite a big project at Euston, which is a future project. As I say, we've done London Bridge, we've worked at Paddington, so we've done quite a few of the stations in London, and all of those have had slightly different focus. So some of them are more development driven, so some want more offices or homes. Some want more capacity on the track, and you've got to do the station. So they've all got differences, but the main thing is they're stations. Lots of people use them. There's lots of people coming in and out. When there's opportunity, when there's lots of people, there's lots of opportunity for economic gain, economic prosperity, but also social interaction, making the city better, making it more kind of vibrant. So there's a real benefit with those nodes, and we love working at those nodes because they're actually also, for an architect, they're the most complicated and the most hard to solve, so therefore the most interesting.
Absolutely. And what is your philosophy towards architecture?
I don't know whether I've got a philosophy for architecture, because it's just we solve problems. Architects solve problems, and I think that as an architect, if you come at a problem with a ready-made philosophy or a style or something, you can't. I mean, how would you know you can't solve that problem? You need to look at the problem, analyze it, and then think of the approaches that are appropriate. What we were saying about there may be a great old building there, but if you have a philosophy that everything's new, and then you've knocked down that building, but actually you want to keep the building. So I think philosophies are inflexible, and I think you're best looking at a problem, analysing it, looking at the good, the bad, what needs to be done. What is the most important thing? Find the most important thing to solve. So we're a bit like detectives in that way, and we'll find the problem and help that solve that for the client and deliver best value. Because actually, sometimes doing nothing or doing very little is the right answer. And that's the right answer.
So
sometimes it's not a new building.
New building, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Existing building that you are working on, or the structure what you are working on. So what kind of approach you do is, what I understand is, you always look at what is not working or what is the problem, and based on that you start the approach.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So we try and, well, obviously the client wants something, and then we say, well, why do they want it? How can we achieve it? What are the parameters? And actually for us, the more parameters, the better it is, because it makes it kind of, I think if you just have a blank sheet of paper, you can do whatever you want, and I think the architecture lacks meaning at that point. It becomes willful. Architecture I don't necessarily think is an art. I think architecture is about collaboration and working with people and governments, and it's much more. Like art is just one person deciding what they do, and architecture isn't that. Architecture is about collaboration, solving real problems, and delivering change which can last for generations and influence people's lives and enjoyment of cities. And that's a really important thing to do. So I don't think you don't approach those problems with preconceptions.
And another challenge, what I understand, is bringing aesthetics as well as economics together. I mean, when you especially do this kind of a large public utility project, how did you manage that? How did you get people on board with your aesthetic, submissions or recommendations get approved?
Well, it's iterative. So I think that these things cost a lot of money. So and value is a thing. So that's why we're talking about like social value. So there's an advantage, and you can turn it into dollars. You can turn it into money. But that's making easier connections. It can turn into retail dollars or it can be commercial dollars. But I think you've got to be kind of iterative. You've got to build the case slowly. Because I think certainly when you're talking to governments, you go, it's going to be X billion. They'll go, oh no, we're not going to do that. So it's best to start small and build up, and then build the case, get champions everywhere who want the project, and then from there it becomes a bit easier. But yeah, the economics there's a little bit of a dark art. I think there's a little bit of guesswork, and I don't always believe it when they do them, but you've got to do what you can to get a project. But I think you can, it's quite easy to say I'm delivering 200,000 square meters of space and that is worth this. So that's quite easy to do. But doing the social value side is an urban interventions and stitching together other schemes is quite difficult to put a value to. But we're getting better at doing it. But it's actually quite
in your career, in your lifespan, can you tell me the kind of projects that you are really proud of? I mean, you believe that it is something that I am leaving behind for
me. I've worked mainly in transportation, but so I did Southern Cross Station in Melbourne, which is one of my favourites. I actually did an airport in Russia, St Pulkovo, which is nice. London Bridge Station, which I mentioned a couple of times already. I did a spa in Bath, which I quite like, and I'm doing a Botanic Gardens in Oman, which isn't quite open yet, but we've done that there. I like those projects. They're probably the ones that I like the most. But most of them are public projects that can people using them. Hopefully, I've made those people's lives slightly better or easier or more enjoyable.
That makes end of the life more meaningful.
I think so. Without making, I'm not a kind of on a crusade, but I think that makes it makes you feel fulfilled as an architect if you can do those things, and you've got a larger social purpose, I think. But yeah.
Absolutely. And any exposure towards Indian architecture?
We're doing a new airport in Noida in Uttar Pradesh, which is being built now, and we've done the design work. So that's quite an interesting typology. It's got a kind of Indian flavour in that we've built much more space outside on landside, because a lot of families arrive, they're saying goodbye to their relatives, they actually go there and stay all day and they share food and have a kind of long goodbye before they go. So unlike a lot of things in Europe where you get dropped off and you go as quickly as you possibly can, it's very different culturally. So we have to accommodate that. So we've got shaded outdoor spaces, more retail, more landside. So it's actually a slightly different typology than if I was designing an airport in America or Europe. So we have done that project, and that project at Noida is it's been built.
Yeah. So what is the timeline for that project?
I'm not quite sure, but I know I've seen construction photographs, so I would say another year or two.
Wonderful. So we are also looking forward to see that as a
great.
And I'm hoping that you can share a couple of images later. I mean, some rendered images of those projects.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. It is a pleasure interacting.
Great.
Thank you so much.